Hey everyone, it's Wasabi and welcome back. This is the Logitech PRO X2 SUPERSTRIKE and let me set the tone properly. This is basically a GPX, so it's the same proven shape that esports players and casual gamers have used for years. But now Logitech changed the one part that you engage with the most, and that is the main clicks. They call it HITS, which is basically short for Haptic Inductive Trigger System. I got another video that goes deeper into what I think about it, but yes, this mouse has adjustable actuation. It can do rapid trigger resets and it literally creates the click feel using haptics. And that is super cool, by the way. So what's Logitech selling here? First, you got the Haptic Inductive Trigger System. This is the whole reason why this mouse is so popular. It is the first esports gaming mouse to use such tech, so the moment of click is sensor based and the feel of the click is haptic based. The second thing is that this is a GPX shape, so still one of the safest, works for most people options. This is really the two reasons why this mouse is selling like hotcakes since the February launch. Now here's a quick look at what you get inside the box. You get a PRO X2 SUPERSTRIKE, the 8K receiver and adapter, a USB-C cable, an additional puck with a PTFE layer, a set of grip tapes, a cleaning cloth, and a user manual. And that's pretty much all that's included inside the box. Now first things first, the weight is 61 grams, so just bear that in mind. This mouse isn't chasing the lightest weight. It's not airy, it's not floaty, it's not heavy. More like a balanced competitive weight that you can comfortably use for long sessions. Design-wise, it's pretty much a GPX, and in 2026, that's either going to feel comforting or very boring, depending on how you feel about this shape. I do love the black and white design to kick off the new tech though, and I think it's pretty funny that before this mouse even got released, ATK already copied the design of this mouse without the tech. Anyway, the build quality feels a touch more refined than the Superlight 2, mainly in the fitment of the main buttons and the scroll wheel. The shell itself still feels like one solid piece, so no surprises there. But the side buttons, honestly, they are the weak point. Perfectly usable, but they still have that slightly springy feel like the Superlight 2, and they're not as crisp as I expected for a launch like this. And then the coating is very much the same as what it always had. Just keep in mind that the main body of this one is white, and I genuinely don't know if they improved the durability or resistance to yellowing. My white Superlight 2 started having stains after 2 years, so this is something only time can tell. Now the stock skates on this mouse are a big talking point. These are black skates, and to me they feel like UHMW PE style skates, which is actually a popular material choice for glass pad use. They feel just as durable as what they use on the Superlight 2, which for a mouse this popular I think is fine, because a lot of gamers who buy mice from bigger brands, they would probably never swap out the stock skates. Now on my Artisan Zero, these skates feel a touch slower than the stock skates on my GPX Superlight 2, but on glass pads these skates are actually pretty nice. They're controlled, they're smooth and predictable in a way that suits glass pads really well. So as usual with any mouse in general, it really depends on the mouse pad that you use. Now before I get into more detail with the shape and how it feels from my experience, to put things into perspective, my hand size is 17.5 by 9. Now there's a reason why the GPX has dominated the market for so long, and lots of enthusiasts hate it, but there's no arguing with the sales numbers. It is a mouse that works well for a lot of people, and myself included. In terms of size, it's that classic medium universal symmetrical shape with a safe hump, and it works across the claw grip, the relaxed claw grip, the fingertip grip style, and even some palm grip depending on the hand size. And this is what makes the PRO X2 SUPERSTRIKE such a weird release, because Logitech didn't update the shell at all. They updated the experience. So whether this mouse fits you is basically asking the same question: does the G Pro Wireless from 2018 fit you? I gotta say though, of all the universal shape mice in this category, based on the variety of games that I play, my favorite is still the GPX shape. It's a little filling for my hand size, but overall it's very usable and I play consistently well on it. Even after spending lots of time on other shapes, there's basically no adjustment period to perform well again on this shape. And if you've never tried a GPX shape before, the short version is it doesn't aggressively lock you into one grip style. It just supports your hand and lets you play. It's very simple and nothing complicated. My favorite part about this this shape are the dimples on the sides. It's a very subtle detail, but it supports my grip more than it looks. I've tried mice that are completely flat on the sides, and compared to my GPX with these dimples, it does make a big difference. I feel a lot more confident with my grip because of this detail. You probably would not hear much from the main clicks, but nevertheless, here is a sound test to give you a better idea of how this mouse sounds. Alright, the main buttons. This is not a normal Switch experience. And as you could tell, it's very quiet. It's as good as a silent Switch. I wouldn't compare it to mechanical clicks at all, and I wouldn't compare it to optical clicks either, because the click here is detected through an inductive sensor, and the confirmation is created with a haptic motor. So when you put both together, it honestly feels like its own category. You know, when this mouse first came out, people were saying it feels faster, and I just thought it was complete bullshit. But then when I bought the mouse and I played a game with it, it actually felt faster than anything I've ever used before. But I think what I like the most is that the clicks feel so clean that it makes shooting feel more refined and focused. And then for the side buttons, it feels very slightly improved compared to my Superlight 2, but the experience is still within the level where people will still complain about it. People will call them mushy, and you really can't blame them. I think it's a bit of a shame that Logitech didn't tune this to give a bit more tactility with the experience. For the scroll wheel, this is actually a step forward from my Superlight 2 in terms of feel. It is tighter and there's more resistance, and the steps are more noticeable. So in-game it feels more deliberate and controlled and less floaty, and the scroll click feels pretty good too. It's easy enough to press down on purpose and not easy to trigger by accident. But here's a bit of a trade-off. Scrolling is surprisingly much louder than the GPX Superlight 2. So while I love the extra feedback under the finger, the sound is honestly a bit unrefined for a mouse of this level. Still though, I think it's a trade-off many people will be happy to take. There is also a software side option called bHop, which is basically scroll input filtering, and it's there to reduce accidental scroll input, especially as the wheel wears down over time and becomes more prone to miss scrolls or landing awkwardly between steps. Now connectivity wise, you got Lightspeed 2.4 GHz wireless that goes up to 8000 Hz, and you can use this wired as well, but up to a maximum of 1000 Hz. There is no Bluetooth, but you do get the storage compartment under the puck, so you can keep the receiver inside when you travel. So the battery is rated at 90 hours constant motion with what I'm guessing is 1000 Hz polling rate and the standard haptic settings. This has Logitech's Hero 2 sensor, and it goes all the way up to 44,000 dpi. That is ridiculously high. Anyway, for me, the sensor has been performing just fine on cloth and glass. No spinouts, no weird tracking. Just that for glass, I leave my game surface mode off, because with that setting on, tracking can get a little weird on glass. For this mouse, you will use G-Hub, and it's a desktop app. The UI is super visual. You got a mouse diagram, and each main click shows your settings like a stack, and it actively shows how far down you press on the buttons, which is super cool. You also get preset code sharing, so you can save and share your setup. So for the Haptic Inductive Trigger System, you get 10 actuation points, 10 rapid trigger reset levels, and 6 haptic intensity levels. And the detail I love is that you can tune left and right click individually for all 3 settings. So for example, if you hold right click to ADS, you probably would want to set a higher rapid trigger sense, because the last thing that you want is to accidentally scope out from a tiny finger movement. So Logitech claims up to 30 milliseconds lower click latency, but don't buy this mouse thinking that it's a pay to win. What is important is a click speed that you can shoot well with. Some people prefer something slower, some people prefer something more instantaneous, just like a Haptic keyboard with adjustable actuation, and that is why this tech is great, because you can choose. Now you will see other mice brands with comparison charts showing that their mice are a couple milliseconds faster on paper, or something like that. But what this mouse does is that it makes the click process faster, which is what you can feel. And honestly speaking, I've never clicked the mouse button this fast in my life. So even if there are mice that are a couple milliseconds faster on paper, this feels faster in actual practice. And by the way, to save your settings on the onboard memory so that you can use this mouse without launching the software and still use the inductive trigger features, all you gotta do is just open up the onboard memory page. It's in the settings tab, click on import, and that will update the memory of the mouse with your latest settings. Don't forget to do this because if not, when you close the app, it's gonna load up some old profile that you have on the onboard memory. Alright, now for tracking, the GPX shape is honestly my favorite universal shape to track with. That is if I had to use a mouse in this shape category. It feels rounded and natural in the hand, so it feels stable even when you're tracking through multiple angles. And the dimples on the sides actually help more than people think. It does give me a bit more indexing. And when I say indexing, I mean your hand gets a consistent reference point, so you always know where the mouse is sitting in your grip, especially when you're making small corrections or changing directions. So is it the ultimate tracking mouse? Absolutely not, but for a safe shape, it's not bad at all. For flicking, this mouse is exactly what GPX has always been. It's stable and predictable. And that's the whole point of this shape. It's not designed for one super specific grip style or one super specific aiming style. It's designed to work well for most gamers and just stay out of your way. I honestly flick consistently well on a shape like this. Micro adjustments from this shape is average, but I gotta highlight that the skates does slow things down by a fair bit, so you would feel like there is a bit more friction to get over, which makes micro adjustments a little more challenging. And when it comes to fatigue, this is where the GPX universal thing really shows. You can grab it in slightly different ways all the time and it never feels like you're doing it wrong, and it doesn't strain my hand by forcing a locked in position, so for me, fatigue doesn't come quick. In tactical FPS, the stability and predictability of a GPX shape is the main advantage, and in faster games, it's still great, but if you want something that feels ultra nimble and effortless, you might prefer a more specialized shape or a lower weight. The GPX is really a shape that does both relatively well, and that is why it is such a safe recommendation. This mouse is Logitech taking a shell that lots of people are familiar with and perform well on, and adding a truly innovative and effective tech. I remember seeing comments 2 years ago where people asked Wu-Ting if they would put rapid trigger and adjustable actuation into a mouse, and I remember someone said it was pointless. But now here we are and it's a fucking massive hit. It is tech that is different and a speed difference you can actually feel, and honestly this is the kind of thing that starts transforming what people think an esports mouse is, which for me is very exciting. If you ask yourself before this, what even separates an esports mouse from a normal gaming mouse? Is it the millisecond differences on paper? The badly photoshopped esports pro with a beauty filter saying that it is the best mouse they ever used, only for them to use something else instead? You know what I mean? Anyway, I gotta say, after using this PRO X2 SUPERSTRIKE, it really does make other mice feel like old tech. Now, it is important to know that this is clearly first gen tech, so my honest recommendation is don't jump the gun. You don't have to own this thing right now. But if you love the GPX shape and you want to experience this tech today, I think you'll have a pretty good time. Well, I had a surprisingly smooth and enjoyable experience with this new tech. But if you're concerned about value, waiting for Gen 2 or waiting for competing brands to develop similar tech and put it into more shapes is a totally smart move. Just remember that using a shape that works for you is the most important thing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to support my channel, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.